morning from the Hostage Diaries. I hope we're recording good. Hopefully my voice will hold out. Lack of use, lose it or lose it. The gospel. So today, got a lot of material to cover. I'm going to start with the BettorThanEzra Cornell Bourbon Pride Idiots, Historic, Slow, and Stupid Louisiana Suicide Bombers, Harry Carey. Or no, actually it's Kamikaze. So they sabotaged Louisiana and sold their soul to the system in order to, I don't know, it's just a drunk, stupid dare. And it's they're seeing the ramifications of it these days. BettorThanEzra was a band when I was at LSU that formed in Baton Rouge, and they had a few big hits. But the tie-in is Ezra Cornell, who was born on my mother's birthday and who died on my birthday. Ooh, magic! And he founded Cornell University, where the fraternity that I joined at LSU was founded, Delta Chi. So BettorThanEzra was a band, and these the whole notion of and because of the semiotics, entertainment semiotic synchronicity throughout history of Duck Soup, You Bet Your Life, Rosemary's Baby, there's a ton of them. I'm not going to get into it, but it makes me a VIP, even though we were brainwashed small to control and to screw. They are addicted to screwing me. It's the sacred spear wound wells, brave hunters, and the sacred infections. I'm not allowed to cure these wound wells because they're producing. So they take the money they steal from picking my pocket, bribe mafia accomplices to keep us buried in the well to protect the wells, and they try to call it energy. I have no problem with the energy companies or the oil companies or things like that. My problem is with the representational products, and it's all based on this upgrade notion. They want to supersize it, and that's what I theoretically get tied into, is the supersizing it because of the St. Louis King of France 9. So therefore, because of high ranking, and they're all above me, so that's bourbon pride. They're drunk, stupid drunk. They've been drunk for 30 years. They got a bad habit and they got brain damage, but they so smart. They get the agony and the ecstasy, where they get the fun and they get the ecstasy and I get the agony. My global estate gets the brain damage and the hangover. And so the more they party, the more it buries the bodies, and it's a weapon. They're so smart. That must be them LSU smarts. So the BettorThanEzra Cornell joke. And BettorThanEzra was not a big band, and they worship this notoriety. Whereas it's not like BettorThanEzra's the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or Pink Floyd or something like that, a huge band. It's they're a one-hit wonder. They had a few hits. So it goes into the whack-a-mole, beat-down, shrink gummy bear. They never let me grow up. They start, my case is a lifetime of stalking and abuse. It's a hate crime. That's why they had to bribe politicians to be involved to save the mafia. So now we've got embedded corruption is to save the mafia, because they stalked me from a young age. They abused me. They brainwashed us. You're not special. That mentality, in order to screw me. They were a Dick Sleeping Beauty in the Oblivion well, getting gangbang screwed by the brothers. The proud Louisiana brothers, who could have built a Duck Soup Dynasty business empire and been a global power player like my plans say, but instead they wanted to gamble. They're drunk gamblers. So Louisiana is now 46th in the nation in the CNBC best states for business, up from 49th. That's real, they're doing a great job, great. So they sold their soul to the National Party because of the threat of my plans as far as abort the competition mentality. So the whack-a-mole beat down shrink gummy bear. So I've been a gummy bear, gumbo, my entire life. Not allowed to grow any bigger because the bullshit gospel of Jesus forgives. So if they play the Jesus card, and really this is a Prince Louis hate crime, King Louis hate crime. But they use the Jesus card to justify it and to rally the troops, to get them some support. And they're also patriots because, God bless USA, because we got a huge gambling debt we can't afford to pay, so we're going to dine and dash with Jesus and God bless USA. Lifetime Stalkers could have built a duck soup business empire game. So shrinking gummy bear, I've been shrunk down, I'm little bitty. Literal extreme. The most money I ever made was in Aspen, Colorado, which is one of the most expensive places in the world. I made $29,000 1 year, and that was by far. Other than that, it was like $17,000 in Jackson Hole. I made, in Louisiana, I was averaging between $4,000 and $12,000 a year. This was with a college degree in business, and I got fired from 75 jobs. It was this psychotic obsession, and they justified it as communist. We're gonna pay. We're gonna teach you to hate your name, and so therefore, because of the marks of my life that cursed me, then you factor in the Omega interpretation, which is the last worst interpretation. So I get the worst things that ever happened in my life on repeat. So it's just it's like that Fifth Element movie where the arms dealer Zorg had that fancy weapon where you shot the guy once and then every other time you pulled the trigger, all the bullets went towards it. That's the same repeat mode. American Beauty, steal your face, set up like a bowling pin, trucking, knock down, that mentality. So I get attacked, so I cannot grow up. It's gummy bear. They will not let me grow up. They're terrified of me because they screwed me so bad. That's what they bet on. That's why they got the Beau Rivage. It's a bet. And they sold their soul to anybody that will save them. It's a crazy, stupid. Just eat some fucking meat, you goddamn cowards. Eat some fucking meat. But all for one for all, mafia, tight herd. We're not going to sacrifice one sacred brother. So this is all about a slave dope lab, in my estimation. They use me. It's like when the Indians killed a buffalo and hunted them to extinction. They use every portion, any way they can screw me, they screw me. Every which way you work that slave hard work. Even though it's all done in the Matrix. So actually, in reality, I look like I'm a lazy even though I do try to sell books and things like that, but I'm not allowed to grow any bigger because of Jesus. Praise Jesus. I can't grow bigger because some people screwed me and stole my wallet. Praise Jesus. That mentality, the Jesus black card that they never have to pay back on. No limit, Master P. So, this is all about the slave dope lab, the steroids or the upgrades. When you take an Alpha Louis, St. Louis, King of France, and bury him in the Omega, everybody above him in this game grid rank system grows bigger. Theoretically, that was the gamble they bet on. And so then, therefore, it's all about this rank game. And so what they've done is they've mass-produced Alpha Louis, St. Louis King of France, in a factory. I call it the body stealers. They try to justify everything as steel, S-T-E-E-L, but in actuality it's pickpockets, S-T-E-A-L, body stealers, reps, because I'm a fucking slave and a hostage. They won't let me grow up. Praise Jesus. So, they, God bless USA. We're patriots. Protect us from our debts. So, then they get into the body stealer rep KC Royal Factories. And it's they justify it. That's why I am kept, another reason I am kept small is to launder loot. Debt slavery is used to launder the loot. So therefore, because they've basically figured out a way to take me, an Alpha Louis, they replaced me with an Omega K9 dog. St. Louis King of France, number 9, 12/9's my birthday, being John Malkovich. So they figured out a way to replicate Henry Ford assembly line, body stealer reps, iHeartRadio, my heart goes out to, bribe everyone to bury the bodies in the well. Praise Jesus, God bless USA. Kill the commies, pinko commies, mafia rules, whitewash it, White House launders the loot. So, major power addicts, slaves. So they're addicted to slaves, but they call me crazy for these. This is all theoretical, justified. It could be real good art, but I'm blacklisted from talent agents. This is a franchise art. I could create a huge. This is highly original art. If it's just art, it's a legal brief that could be art. John Grisham mentality. But I have to theorize. They call me crazy to try to brainwash, the gaslight brainwash, to try to keep me from thinking, all unraveling the threads. So they're addicted to slaves theoretically, of course, for legal reasons. And it all goes into program hacks of small cage. The Omega hack killed me. It was a slow deceleration. First of all, they had the St. Jean Vianney Church. So therefore, and I'm a junior, and I played Texas JV golf. So the junior, J.R. Ewing. So the junior Kirks, and they bribe. This is where it gets into the Bush League bribery, because of this. This is a huge weapon, and we're talking about billions and billions stolen from a duck soup dynasty empire that could have been built if they would have let us, if they didn't try to keep us brainwashed, asleep, sleeping beauty to gang bang and screw. Spear whales, sacred spear whale wounds, and sacred infections. Keep the handicap. It's all about handicap, Harrison Bergeron. So the Hunger Games Cristal, Louis Roederer, Cristal Bubble, Hunger Games Pains. And I don't mean to poke fun of, this is all a comedy routine. Theoretically, of course. So I don't mean to poke fun at hunger. I'm actually trying to solve a lot of the problems in the world. My philanthropy, the globalism movement, which is condemned. So, the programs, this gets into the Matrix Game Grid, and it only really matters to VIPs with deep pockets to pick. Like a normal person, these hacks, they don't have if you take somebody who's got billions in potential that we can drill for oil, bubbling crude, Jed, and clamp it, shooting that rabbit, and duck soup dynasty, that sort of mentality. You bet your life. So it all gets back into, they hack us small, this based on this game grid, the curse marks. Once again, it's them goddamn pinko commies. Well, you gonna pay for all the commies. And even though Arm and Hammer was named after the Arm and Hammer of the Soviet Union, Julius Hammer was actually started the Communist Party in the United States, and they founded Occidental Petroleum, and George H.W. Bush pardoned Arm and Hammer in 1989. So, yeah, that's a bullshit. This is a lynching hate crime. Bank robbery is all this is. A mafia lynching hate crime. Premeditated conspiracy. That's crazy talk there. Why we steal your wallet. So, they shrunk me down and keep me in the zoo cage, oblivious. And while they're picking my pocket, you're not worth nothing, boy. We're going to ignore you to death. Nobody will play with you. We don't play with our food. Rather than eat meat, we're going to have a sacrificial lambs. We're going to have a sacrificial Lord that's going to pay for everything. Praise Jesus. God bless USA. Save the mafia. Mafia is laundered the loot. Global WMD. I was going to get into my Art of Modern War and 007 BondAge Zoo HostAge Report. I don't know if I'll have time for that. The global, did the Omega hack out? So you take Alpha Louis, St. Louis, King of France, and you hack him Omega, which is that, and then it ties into the Catholic Church is like a big network. So you've got this of parishes all over the world, and the ripple effects permeate throughout all of the globe. So you take an Alpha Louis, St. Louis, King of France, and you hack him Omega, and then that programs the mentality. There's an illusion the media creates illusions in society. So then, therefore, the illusion brainwashes the masses. And when you worship quantitative totalitarian democracy, then it's just, so then therefore that precedence is set that cash is king, matters more than blood. And this is the precedence that is being set in order to launder the loot. This is where Louisiana screwed up. Louisiana served a purpose, a lesson, and balance in the equation. The bank, it's like a bank and there are a bunch of accounts. Rather, they want to be independent, free-range accounts to be hunted. That mentality, but they herd together. So this global WMD theory, and that's probably why I got stuck in Georgia, Athens, Georgia, the Greek system. And Athens is and they shouldn't have played hardball with me because I'm forced to try to escape and exposing the criminality of it. So it's ruining the whole system. So the system's going to be pissed at Savannah for playing banana ball, hardball. Make up your own rules fantasy. That's kind of what's going on. So it's just ridiculous. That's where we're going to get into the 007 BondAge Zoo HostAge Report. Well, actually, I forgot to print out my copy, so I'm not going to do that today. How many minutes are we in? Only 18. All right. Global WMD, the revolutions, anarchy, economic opportunism. So it creates this global upheaval. What they're trying to do is strip mining, like the Dukes of Hazzard movie that was filmed in Baton Rouge with Daisy Duke and Jessica Simpson and Johnny Knoxville, volunteer jackass, and Sean William Scott Stifler. Hard-ons I pay for. That's out of my league called, game Addicts. So, they're strip mining the world's power in order to free the people of the world. And it's all a bank robbery chaos. And what they've done is they're trying to launder the stolen loot and kill the cops in the meantime. By strip mining nations around the world, they're killing the cops. The power structures of centuries or millennium are then therefore invalidated for this cash is king popularity contest validation quantitative reality. So that's the war that's going on. That's where it gets into the whole motive theory. So this global WMD, well, it's really a weapon of mass societal programming. So it brainwashes, it changes the illusion. And this all goes through the Yankee media war machine in New York, which now controls a lot of media in Europe and controls trends. And then you've got the whole, the celebrity idols that are, they're manipulated, and that's probably motive why I am blacklisted by talent agents and unable to grow up and grow any bigger or anything like that. It's really bizarre. Maybe I will get into the art of modern war. I've got a lot here written down. So it's economic opportunism by disorienting your opponent, and this all gets into the Star Wars Matrix Tron mentality. There's wars going on, the code and the processor wars, the power, the technology and all that, justified by the quantitative totalitarian democracy, superpower, politicians and sacred laws. Before, when blood mattered, it was a much different world, but things are rapidly changing. And so this technological dawning age is changing the world. And the United States used me as a weapon. So rather than preparing in Louisiana, they sold their soul for a gangbang screwing of me, Sleeping Beauty. Spear whales, they're brave hunters. Beauty shop. So this all gets into the art of modern war, and I've been documenting all these different theories. I've got a lot of different chapters. One of the chapters is the I call it the 007 BondAge Zoo HostAge Report, because supposedly Savannah, which the University of Georgia Bulldog lives in Savannah. That's known for living in Savannah, an English bulldog, and there's supposedly a lot of ties to England. But my mother is English and my father is Jewish and French. But what they've done is they've tried to steal my power because I have this inheritance of power. They're trying to keep me small with no heirs in order to steal the power. And there's theories the English mob is involved. So they're promoting my cousin because my mother's brother, it would be more of a male. They want the male-dominated English blood, even though Queen Elizabeth was queen, or that mentality. So the 007 BondAge Report, because Savannah has just made some horrific mistakes. First of all, they're playing hardball with me, forcing me to expose, to try to escape, thinking they're going to jinx me or they're going to gain favor, but they're screwing me. They're inspiring this work of art, and it's exposing the nature of the game, so it's going to come back on me. I'm a tortured prisoner of war. I've been brainwashed and alienated for years, tortured, literal torture, even though I live in pretty good digs. And so the 007 BondAge Zoo HostAge Report. So I get zero support from Savannah, which is supposedly got ties to England, and I'm trying to help England. So there's this, in my Art of Modern War, I uncovered years ago this secret war on Europe, and I'm trying to keep the peace. I'm trying to balance the math equation. So I've been exposing the nefarious nature of this secret war that's going on, and that's probably one of the reasons I'm blacklisted from talent agents, and also erased from existence. I don't really exist. I'm not real, even though I'm one of the most prolific, important thinkers and theoreticians and artists and writers in my generation, and possibly bigger. The weaponization of everything. This goes back to that notoriety of these body stealers, upgrade, dope labs, super fuels, and this upgrade. And so because they bet on the supersized upgrades, which is a guilty faulty tower logic, they've created this underlying guilt. And so then therefore, because they have slaves, and if the world decides to turn, so this is where it gets into roid rage attacking mentality. So they have this mentality that we must create, they've got to, it's cop killer mentality. We got to kill all the cops to get away with it because we're so important. So the mafia tricks the presidents into being guilty accomplices, and therefore the system mutates. That's why I've been saying for years, paint the White House black, because unmask the evil empire, maybe they'll let me go free. Once they're revealed this nefarious plot using Louisiana and me as the slave hostage power supply, and maybe they can be independent and pay, be the evil empire. That's when China started shifting to looking like the good guys. They're playing the yin and yang card here. They realized that the horrific state of affairs the United States has put itself in. So the weaponization of everything is like roid rage attack. You take everything you can and you use it as a weapon because of the notion of this superpower mentality. There is a weaponization of everything. So products, anything like that, it's a distinct magic key. And magic is nothing more than like a rank magic, a rank in math equation. So therefore, it's like if you have a magic power, it outranks normal. So therefore, you sweep the pot in the poker hands. That mentality. So they use the magic for upgrades in order to sweep the pot in this game grid that is taking over because of the technological advancements of the time. So it's the sooner land grab at dawn, grab as much power, grab as much of the globe as you can mentality. Even though it's going to be a nightmare and they're trying to block out the sun, where they live in this the mafia lives in this nocturnal world, play in the shadows, nocturnal predators, hunt, easy meat. It's a lot easier if the prey can't see what's going on. And so the Art of Modern War book I'm trying to write is an illumination of these theoretic, or it's good art. I can make a good book out of that, or a good film, and make some money, and maybe escape and grow up outside and not be a gummy bear all my life. Go Lewinsky. I go down on everything. I always lose. Omega curse. Igby goes down. That's a payment for me wearing an Aspen hat. The Aspen idea is slave. I have a lot of ideas that are stolen because I have no resources to make them real. So I'm an Aspen Ideas slave. Walter Isaacson invented the Aspen Ideas Fest. They've got to pay for that. That's pride. We pay for your pride. I'm a Caldwell Zoo, Doctor Who Caldwell Zoo. My southeastern Louisiana Lions Pride diploma. Since I'm unable to grow any bigger than a gummy bear and pay off my debts, the debt slave launders the ID theft, and that makes it all superpower dope labs. Go Jesus. God bless USA. Hide the mafia. Corruption of the USA bet. It's a stupid gamble. If they would just, I mean, they've got the distinct advantage of a vastly superior intellectual university system, and they've got a huge business advantage, but they want more. It's this insane greed. I think it goes back to envy over the beauty of European cities. I came up with this theory yesterday right in my BondAge report. If you drive across, one of the big problems with the United States is you've got a lot of depressed areas surrounding urban areas because of the diversity complexity, which makes the system insane. So what they've had to do is export their weakness, manufacture and export in weakness. It's an essay I wrote long ago in part of the Art of Modern War. So you poison your opponent in order to, as healthcare, to save you because you got guilty. That mentality. I think they're afraid of Armageddon mentality. So therefore, destroy the world is healthcare. This goes back into, it's insanity. It's total insanity. I mean, the system is totally crazy. And I think it's based upon the diversity and the class warfare and the power struggles. There's a lot of key elements. The competition, the predatory nature, the superpower, super dope, all that mentality. So it's a stupid gamble, especially because and this might be another reason we're on the cusp of the genetic revolution, where they say in the very near future we'll be able to use CRISPR gene editing and edit the genes and create super babies who are immune from most major diseases. That's what a super baby will be. It'll be a child or a person who is immune to cancer and AIDS and all leukemia and all these things. So therefore, it saves a ton on healthcare, making it justified. And we're on the cusp of this genetic revolution. And Trash Planet, Project X, 324 trillion in global debt. Party on, dudes. Gospel of Bill and Ted. Charge. That's good for the USA. The chaotic diversity, which is the foundations of the system. And I uncovered this years ago. I think it has to do with if there ever is a rising sun global awakening, which I've been preaching for years, ignored, still alone. Wrote a book about it, Globalism Movement, Electronic Oblivion, banned. So it goes back to comparative systems. So they want to be, if you've got a flaw in your system, then you want totalitarian, absolutism, kill. Any other alternative option is a virus because of the inherent weakness mentality, insanity, creating insanity in the system, which exacerbates the roid rage guilt of slaves in Louisiana to attack. Trash Planet, Project X, 324 trillion global debt. Good for the USA. And it's this last ditch effort before we get into cloning and all this sorts of stuff. So the Matrix technology precedents, I discussed that earlier. It overrules blood. So you had the overrules blood and genetics. So you got the sneaker attack. This is where it gets into the genius of Pink Floyd live at Pompeii in 1972. If you look at them, if you worship totalitarian democracy, popularity, quantitative validation, then it deals with the manipulation of stampedes as weaponized stampedes. I've gotten into this in the Art of Modern War also. So it's like a lava flow. Lava explodes out like a stampede and decimates stabilized societies. That's the totalitarian precedence that you want to inflict. That's where it gets into the whole notion of Doctor Who mentality. Stable blood society. Smart, sane, good, logical. That's the premise of it. Modern war, predicted the secret war in Europe, global offensive, defensive. Oh yeah, I wrote this chapter of The Art of Modern War, which is an escape launch attempt of Instagram comments to global VIPs. And it's all these controversial strategic theories, long comments. So one of the things I wrote to some of the royals and aristocracy and wealthy of Europe is an offensive defensive plan, which is beneficial. And the reason I wear the Fight Club shirt by Chuck, I apologize for mispronouncing. Not even going to attempt it. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Big fan. Got several of your books. Fight Club mentality is it's marketing. My Electronic Oblivion book, based in Savannah, has a marketing agenda of this globalism philosophy movement that I'm trying to launch. And the basis of this, so I'm helping by promoting this globalism agenda as an offensive defense to the secret war on Europe. What I'm basically calling for is if Europe uses my idea for a global awakening consciousness, and then alternatives to totalitarian Americanization and globalization, which I suggested was Europeanization, treasured civilization nations, smart planned managed developments, treasured cities. That's where it gets into an alternative for the developing nations of the world to follow. And there will always be a need for growth, even though growth is a nightmare brick wall because of the problem of overpopulation and limited natural resources, which I would like to address the catastrophe before it is a catastrophe. It's part of my motive. So this globalism Big Bang, they create a smart planetary management. They come up with ideas to cure the problems in the lower half depressed nations of the world. And then therefore it validates Europe's power as a defense and an offensive defense to the secret war attacking the stable blood of Europe with this cash is king mentality, buying everything. It's this race or die gambling addiction, grow or die or get bought mentality, and you've got it's a asinine logic predicament. Then global leadership, fixed planet. I also suggest in 2004. I came up with the idea while living in Jackson Hole. Came up with the idea for a wonder of the world dedicated to the arts. I suggested putting it in France and trying to get a return of the king, Louis, back to the throne. And you can see with all the major problems in France, they need a central authority figure, not an authoritarian, but a central figure with higher consciousness. And when I say I want these rise of kings, we need fair, logical, smart kings. The problem is the competitive nature and the attacks create a necessary clampdown to control or lose power, which is a destabilizing force. So therefore, you need a rational, logical, and that's what I was hoping, but by bringing this awakening consciousness would help stabilize the predatory nature. If a king or a queen comes up with a good plan, 20-year plan, a 5-year, a 10-year, a 20-year plan for the nation, whereas democracy, political parties are very short-sighted, short-term. So that's one of the motives there. and then define societal valuations, which is probably why we're facing the secret war on Europe. If you by the United States is the valuation structure system, define sacred societal valuation. And I got into this earlier, the envy over beauty of Europe, because and this was all instigated by Texas, which has a great deal of wealth, but when it's totally fucking crazy. If you look at my case, it's a huge, and it deals with the comparison of European cities to Texas cities or southern cities, whereas the Northeast is more got better planning. And even though, and it gets back into this misery loves company, but they got a slave, so they call me crazy and force medicate me, handicapping my world-class literary skills. So, I think I've about covered everything on this today. How many? 40 minutes. That's pretty good. My voice held out. I was somewhat articulate. Funny, hopefully. So, hopefully I can escape, get something accomplished, and figure out a way to grow beyond the gummy bear mentality in the zoo, the shrunken down gummy bear. So, have a nice day.